I'm a husband, and I am a father to two beautiful children. And this is Peggy Flanagan, a state legislator, a mother, and we are running together as governor and lieutenant governor. I would like to, first of all, say thank you to Imam. I am a teacher, so when I see a master teacher, I know it. And over the time we've spent together, one of the things I've had the privilege of is seeing the things in life through the eye of a master teacher to try and get the understanding. Listening today to the stories and what it means, but there were two examples of this. And last summer, and many of you were probably there, there's so many reasons that we're proud of Minnesota, the things we think about it. But most of all, it's the people. We have beautiful lakes, we have beautiful opportunities, but we think of the people and the goodness of people. And so last summer, after the cowardly terrorist attack on Dar al-Farouk, Minnesotans gathered together. And thinking of living here as long as I have, and in that moment, it looked more like Minnesota than I'd ever seen it. It felt more like Minnesota than I've ever seen it, and it felt like who we are more than we'd ever seen it. And it was Imam talking, in those times is where we find who we are. In those times is where we really see. And I know as a community, you are Minnesota. You have made Minnesota better. You are my neighbors. You are my children's friends. You are the people who built the great tapestry that is Minnesota. And I think as an elected official, one thing is especially, you don't need me to give you a sermon, but you should expect me to try and live one. And I've spent my life working. I'm a cultural geography teacher. So I've talked about the great diversity of the world. I've lived and spent time in China. I've traveled extensively around the world, and I tried to expose my students to the beautiful diversity that's the world. And that included talking about comparative religions and what our people believe and the spirituality that makes us truly human. And that is a key piece of this. And at a time when the Imam's right, the world may not be fair, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try and make it a little fair. It doesn't mean we shouldn't try and live in that space to make it a little better. And when our neighbors are hurting, when our fellow citizens are hurting, it's at that time that you expect the best out of us. And that brings me to the second lesson that the Imam taught me. I represent Southern Minnesota in the United States Congress. And I'm not telling you anything new here, but Congress is a very broken place right now. It is a place that feeds on fear more than hope. It's a place that feeds on division more than unity. It's a place that feeds on trying to find someone be the other than to be my brother. And I understood that. And I spent a lifetime making sure that all were welcome, that our children were educated, that we had access to health care. And for myself, and I've talked about this with people, because I believe I let myself down, but more importantly, it was a lesson when Imam told me to go speak to people. Some of you are very clear about this. I have pushed back through my whole career on the demonization of Islam, on the demonization of immigrants. But some of you remember back to November of 2015, after the Paris bombings, there was an attempt to tighten the restrictions on Syrian refugees. The very people who needed us the most, the very people that I've supported in my office and resettled. And I was of the belief that the direction the country was going was one that we needed to ensure our neighbors understood how safe that system was. Understood that if you came here as a refugee from Syria, you were a good person who was going to be here, was going to do, and it was our responsibility to help our brother and sister. And so my heart was in the right place to try and vote for a piece of legislation, and many did, that added a little more layer to that. And while it wasn't the legislation itself, maybe didn't stop anybody or wouldn't have stopped that system, I learned, again, this lesson in talking about it, and it's one that I feel I'm deeply sorry to you, whether you heard this or not. I was with a young woman in St. Paul at a jazz festival, a beautiful summer day, and we were talking, a young Muslim woman. And she said, "Congressman, I know your heart. You've always stood with us. You're a good man. On that vote, I knew what you were doing. I knew you were trying to do it for the right reasons." She said, "But what I needed more than a vote is I needed a friend to stand with me." at that time. I needed you to stand there again in that space because it's your voice that people are listening to. It's your voice that's reflecting upon our community. And I think the lesson from that, and as we talked, a renewed commitment by myself and Peggy Flanagan has been a champion of equality, a champion of access, and really, to be very honest, in this space, Imam Zaman is right on this. There is Islamophobia. There is a hatred that is being stirred. There are people in leadership positions that are making the situation worse. And it's in that space more than ever that those of us who know better, those of us who attempt to live that sermon, need to redouble our efforts and to speak out. So I am grateful, Peggy is grateful for the chance to be in front of you, the chance to understand that our responsibilities, whether you know us or not, whether you were in the districts or cast ballots for us or not, our responsibility is to see you and to hear you. Taking the message to all Minnesotans, you are our neighbors. You are our fellow Minnesotans. Your right to be here is your right to be here. And it's important for us to make that clear. And so I'm grateful for you to come here. I'm grateful for the opportunity to get to share and learn. I'm grateful for the diversity and the joy that you bring to Minnesota. I am deeply sorry that your children have to see some of the things that they see just because of who they are. But as someone who knows my responsibility, my pledge to you is to at least try every day to make people feel a little more welcome. My religious heritage demands of me to be welcoming to that stranger, to be welcoming to that, to be welcoming to those amongst us, to help those who need help, and to be the good neighbor that we know we should be. So to each of you and your families, may peace be upon you, and thank you for having us here. It's probably symbolic, yes.
Good afternoon. Buju, Peggy Flanagan, Indigenous Kaz, Guabagan, Iganikag, and Junjaba, Mangan and Odame. My name is Peggy Flanagan. I'm a citizen of the White Earth Nation of Ojibwe, which is the largest tribe in Minnesota. I'm honored, sorry, there you go. I'm just gonna hold it. I'm honored and humbled to be here with you today. Thank you so much for inviting us in. And thank you, Imam, for the stories that you shared with us today. It's actually exactly what my heart needed to hear in this moment. Of while there are folks, there are people who may do bad things. That our job and our role is to continue to show kindness to one another, and especially in this moment that we find ourselves in. That is needed now more than ever before. I serve in the state legislature and have been proud to be able to stand with the Muslim community. We will continue to do that. As an American Indian woman, I know the kind of tension and othering that can happen in our communities. And I think we are stronger when we stand together, and I am happy to continue to do that and work in partnership with you to make Minnesota a more fair, welcoming, and equitable place. So, Chimi Gwetch, many thanks for having us here today, and I look forward to the work that we can do together. Thank you.